There's Dead Fishes, Michael Caine, Clive Owen, and Pull My Finger. So long, Ruby Tuesday. This week, it's Children of Men on Nothing Good.
Well, hello, Mr. Brown.
Hello, Doc.
How's
Welcome
it going?
to Nothing Good.
Yeah, it is nothing good going on today, man.
There is nothing good ever going on, especially when the two of us have a microphone.
Yes, two microphones.
Two microphones,
Actually.
yes. This ain't no stingy operation here.
Welcome to episode... No, it's not. Welcome to episode 2 of Nothing Good. And today, we're going to talk about one of the most important films that either of us have ever seen in our entire lives.
Very true. Children of Men.
Spoiler alert. There will be spoilers.
Oh, listen, the movie came out, 14, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and we gave you ample warning. You're not going to stumble upon this. Chances are you've seen it, and if you haven't and you're still listening, I feel no sympathy.
Shame on you. You should see
sympathy.
it. It's excellent. Pause the podcast and just go watch it. It's like an hour and like 50-some minutes long. It's worth your time.
I'm going to actually say, if you're going to pause this podcast, wait 30 seconds so I can guilt you for not having seen the film before now. What the fuck is wrong with you?
So many things.
Your mother would be ashamed of you, knowing that you went onto this podcast, you listened to this about a review and a remembrance of a film, and you haven't even bothered to fucking see it. God damn it. How dare you? I used to think that your father was disappointed in you for a different reason. Maybe it's what your job is. Maybe it's the car you drive. But no. That look your father gives you at Christmas, across the table at Thanksgiving, what he looks at you is not because he's disappointed in you and you never really lived up to his standard. No. He looks at you disappointed because you've never fucking seen Children of Men.
It's the fucking that really does it right there.
Generally, I find that it's the fucking that always does it, Doc.
Boom. So I think for the new audience, I think it's pretty obvious that we're not family friendly. So.
This is not a fucking family show.
No, you take that shit and get the hell out.
Yes, you know what? I think we should also keep it in mind for the next 15. Let's time it. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Let's say nothing but fuck.
Fuck. Fucking hell.
Fuck. That's good. That's good.
I felt good. I feel dirtier now.
So what are we drinking before we begin our episode? Just set the mood.
Yeah. So this is Arsenal Cider House Orange Blossom Vent Blend Mead, which I've never had mead before.
This is Doc's first mead.
Yeah.
It's his virgin mead experience.
No artificial flavorings or concentrate ever, which I guess is important.
I guess so. I don't think we really need to read the entire can.
Well, I mean, they put it pretty bold on the can.
I mean,
I read it.
I mean, hey, it's gluten free.
It's gluten.
Yes.
Take that shit out. It's gluten free.
Yes. Ain't no gluten up in our mead. Let's crack it. Let's get it real.
Right.
Oh yeah, spray it.
Doesn't smell like a damn thing, but that's a good sign.
Ready for this? Now, ready for the most unbelievably pleasant audio experience you're ever going to have.
You might want to just mute this.
Don't mute this.
Please mute this.
You better take it all in. Are you ready? Here we go.
No one is.
How you feel about that? Is it meaty?
So that was all Mr. Brown there, obviously?
No, it wasn't.
I haven't taken a sip yet because I was mortified at the noises you were making. Now I'm going to try it.
Okay. He's sipping it. He's looking. He's thinking. Tell us what you need.
It's good.
All right. A lot of build up for that.
Yeah. Let's spit it out.
You're so verbose. You're so verbose. This is the quality programming you can expect from Nothing Good, where you listen to us drink things and then not say anything.
So,
God bless you.
Before we get this, how are you doing today, though?
I'm all right. I'm good. You know, living. alive, breathing.
Okay.
I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But I find at least several times a day that I find that breath comes into my body, and then after a brief pause, it exits my body. And then after that ordeal, it does it all over again. And most of the time, and this really fucking shocks me, I'm not even aware that it's happening.
It's like it's automatic.
Do you have the same experience?
It's like a really automatic experience. Like there's an entire system in your body that's doing things for you that you don't even have to do yourself.
Like, oh my God. Now I'm completely aware of all the functions of my body.
Did you realize there's fluids flowing in your body right now?
Oh man, so many fluids.
There's entire systems designed to help you flow those fluids.
So many fluids.
Yeah.
I enjoy it though. But speaking of fluids, let's make this conversation fluid, and let's move on to our main event.
Yeah.
The important film.
Yeah. Children of Men. Released December 25th, 2006.
2006. See, now that's interesting. It's a Christmas movie. And as you were just mentioning right before we just started recording this bad boy, normally, here, at least in the United States, Christmas Day or Christmas week is a huge day for releases. You know, it's everything they want to get out for that Oscar cutoff, big budgets for families that have the week off or don't go anywhere. They usually pummel the box office with releases in Christmas, but 2006, as you looked into, was a bit of a different story.
Yeah, and listen, full disclosure, I'm talking cursory level of research that will I ever do for this stuff.
Yeah.
I just did a very quick Google search because I realized I hadn't looked it up during my previous research, and only 2 movies had released that day, but that still doesn't sit well with me.
No.
Which was Children of Men and Black Christmas. And I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be something else that released. And I looked, I couldn't find anything, but I could have looked a little harder. Don't care enough to.
Dear listener, if you can think of anything else that was released Christmas week in 2006, we invite you to keep that shit to yourself. We've already recorded this. You're a little late to the fucking game.
We will not be revisiting this subject.
Nope, it's gone. It's out there now. When this is over, we shan't discuss this again. No. So, too late. You missed your opportunity.
So the movie was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which I feel like I'm not pronouncing his last name correctly.
There's going to be a lot of that happening in this episode.
Well, maybe not. The screenplay was by multiple people. I'm not going to name all of them. There's like 5 of them. But the book, but it was based on a book by P.D. James from 1992, which I did not know.
I did not know,
which is pretty interesting.
At the conclusion of this episode, I will be Amazoning that to my house.
Fun fact: I rented that book from the library years ago after I'd seen the film, and could not get through it. It's not like the movie at all. Like, and then now doing the research I did, come to find out, outside of names of characters and the basic overall plot, what's happening in the world, it is not the same.
Very similar to The Running Man, which was written by Stephen King as Richard Bachman, which has very little similarity to The Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jesse the Body Ventura, which is, for those who haven't seen that film, we'll cover that one day. It's an incredible masterpiece, a love letter to the 80s, well, inside the 80s. But yes, very similar. One of those very loosely based. Alfonso Cuarón, the director, those will know from his most notable other work previous to this, Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, and Gravity.
Which
was an excellent film.
Very Sandra Bullock floating around for a while.
It's a really good movie.
It is. It was very good. However, I think I was a little too drunk to have seen it the first time. Wow. So I immediately got motion sick about 25 minutes in the movie. And I had to do one of this. You know, you drink too much and you go to bed and you got to put one foot on the floor so the room stops spinning. That's how I felt 40 minutes into Gravity. And I don't think I ever came back down.
Well, fortunately, I saw it sober and it was an excellent experience. And actually... useless information about this film, but also connects to Gravity. So this movie came out in 2006. Apparently it was a very tumultuous filming experience, production, whatever. But the movie came out. It cost, mind you, I believe like $76 million to make this movie.
Okay.
It only grossed $70 million.
So it is a bomb.
Oh, it is a massive commercial flop.
So let's just go ahead and say that one of the best and most important films that you and I have ever seen was a commercial disappointment, to say the least.
To the point where the director, Cuarón, did not make another feature film until Gravity in 2013.
Oh, he got that stank on him.
He, just done.
Oh yeah, because this is not video. Herb just dusted his hands off there.
Yeah.
He got the stank of a box office bomb on him.
And it's really interesting how that plays out. But he rebounded well. So
You know what I find really amazing? The man who directed Children of Men couldn't get work for a decade. But
I think it was self-imposed.
okay, I was gonna say, but Brett Ratner is still running around out there, destroying whatever the hell he touches.
We don't talk about Brett Ratner in this house.
I feel like Brett Ratner, like even if he got a job at like a Kroger's, like he'd wreck that frozen food section. Someone would come in. There's a lot of Doritos in there. The frozen food's all over. He's like, "What? I thought we wanted to shake things up in here."
Yeah, well,
I think an overall theme we'll see here is fuck Brett Ratner. I think
not
that's
a
what we're
fan.
gonna do. Yes,
Not a fan.
not a fan at all. But moving along.
Yeah. So okay.
What we say the basic. Let's go. Let's bullet point the premise without going into the plot.
Okay. So the world is ending effectively because women are no longer fertile.
Yes.
Babies are not being born anymore. The ones that had been born, were dying immediately after, and then after that, women just are no longer able to give birth any longer.
Yes, human women, sometime in a not too distant future, are
2027
become infertile. And our central plot of the film begins about 15 to 20 years after this.
18
years.
18 years.
And the world is slowly eating itself alive, faster than every day. And shit gets accelerated when the youngest person in the world, the last baby to be born, who so many people look at as their surrogate child, watching him grow up, dies.
Yeah,
suddenly,
he's
tragically.
murdered.
Yes,
because he does not. I think it was like a fan wanted him to sign something, an autograph, and he refused, and he was beaten to death.
yes, very heavily.
There's some lines you can draw between that and society right now.
Oh, there's so many. We're gonna do a lot of that throughout this whole thing. And so what this does is it follows our central character, Clive, played by Clive Owen.
Yeah.
Which is, a movie is very 2006 and 2007 because Clive Owen is the star and no one questioned it. And you're like, oh yeah, Clive Owen, he's in things now.
Yeah, Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, who dies 28 minutes into the film. Interestingly,
we hadn't got there yet, Doc.
Does it matter?
No,
they've all seen this. Spoiler alert! Everybody's seen this.
If you haven't so far, goddamn, your dad is so disappointed. He sits in his Volvo and cries because of the disappointment that you are because you haven't fucking watched Children of Men yet. What are you doing? Pause the show.
Yes.
Watch the movie. We can wait. God.
Yes. But yeah, Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, and Chiwetel Ejiofor.
All right. Here we go. So, there's an actor in this movie, most notable for being in this film.
Yeah.
He is in 12 Years a Slave as the principal actor. He is in American Gangster with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. He is in Doctor Strange.
He's in Doctor Strange.
And I do not and have never physically...
He's in Serenity.
Oh, God, he's so good in Serenity, dude.
First time I really remember seeing him, it was in that.
Yes. That's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
But regardless, I've never heard another human being say his name with confidence. So we're going to now present a segment that I hope is not a reoccurring segment here on Nothing Good, where we will try to pronounce this man's name as many different ways as we possibly can. Did you look it up?
Of course, I did research on
Jesus
the film.
Christ, Doc.
His name is... Oh, how you try first. I already know how to pronounce it.
Oh, do you? You said it earlier, but was I paying attention?
I hope not.
Absolutely not.
Make this more amusing.
All right. 1 second. Hold on. Let me pull up my not phonetic. So, I'm going to give you 3 different pronunciations.
You probably might get one of them right.
I want you to tell me if I'm correct.
Okay.
A. Chiwetel Ejiofor. 2. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Or number 3. Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's the last name.
So, brother, first of all, the first 2, not bad. Third one, you shit the bed hard.
I realized I was coming up against the wall. I feel like I'm just going to call him Chewy, but keep going. Yeah.
So, the actual correct pronunciation of this man's name, this Hollywood actor's name, is Chiwetel. Yep. Ejiofor.
Geophore. Okay.
And it's actually really simple.
Yeah. Now that I've seen it, it's, yes, for sure. It's like Ewan McGregor. Until you hear someone say it properly, everyone's like, Ewan. Or Carrie Elwes. You're like, oh, how do you say that, right?
Wait, how do you pronounce his name?
Carrie Elwes.
I know that now.
See? There you go. But before that, how many times you said it terribly?
I just didn't say it.
There it is. Oh, yeah.
Some names I just avoid.
The Dread Pirate Roberts.
Because I'm just like, I don't want to look like an idiot.
And you, yes. So we have all of these wonderful. This is an extremely well casted movie. Even I don't remember the actress's name, because we should make this clear as we talk about this important film. Herb, you've watched this very recently, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple nights ago.
But moments before this podcast was released, I last watched this film amongst my many viewings about 3 months ago. So I did precisely zero research because I wanted to feel it out, and knowing that Doc would do a good chunk of the research here, I could bounce off and then basically be an idiot. But also, fun fact: the nursemaid, that the doula, if you will, to the pregnant girl in this was also in the children's film Matilda. She was Principal Trunchbull. There it is, yeah. Which every time I think about her, I just think of Strawberry Cough. Which would be
cough. Strawberry cough.
You say it, right?
You say it, right?
Okay, so again, we're gonna do some terrible Michael Caine impersonations. We're gonna do terrible impersonations of everybody.
Can I just talk about how much Michael Caine puts a goddamn smile on my face?
Oh, dude!
No matter what he does, I'm watching this movie and I've just got this smile. He brings such a joy.
So
he's so good at it.
I think what you get, and you're going to see this a lot in this movie. So Clive Owen is reactionary in this whole movie.
Yes,
he does very little. The whole movie, he does very little to independently drive the plot himself. Everyone else around him drives the plot around him, but I think none more so in a way than Michael Caine, who brings both levity to the film and a tragic humanity, but in the exact same time too. Excuse me. He's fucking Michael Caine. So he legitimizes every single frame that he's in. Like, have you ever thought, oh, I want to watch Michael Caine smoke weed with the principal from Matilda with dreadlocks in a random scene in a dystopian thriller film? You never thought you'd say that, but god damn it, that's like one of the best scenes in the whole movie because he just brings it. He brings that Michael Caine.
He just has an ernst about him. Like, and he has this ability to make you feel like there's some actors and actresses who are able to really convey a sense of calm. Like, you feel safe around them.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, Michael Caine is not protecting me. He'd get his old ass kicked in a real situation, but I feel safe around him. I feel like he would go out of his way to protect me. He has that ability to make you feel that way. And that character was so perfect. He was so perfect in it.
Oh. Yeah, I can especially feel that vibe with Clive Owen in this movie. That it's like basically Jasper. Correct?
Jasper, yes.
Jasper is Clive Owen's last remaining confidant. That really
his only friend.
Has no real vested interest in anything other than just being his friend, which is, as you will find watching this film, very rare. Nobody in this movie loves the other one or is friends with the other one for the sake of being that person's friend or love until you start to watch Clive Owen develop these relationships in this film. Mm-hmm. Even Julianne Moore, his ex-wife, still wants something out of him. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants something out of each other except Jasper to Clive Owen, and then inevitably Clive Owen to our main protagonist, pregnant lady.
Yeah. So, okay. Now, let's
excuse me.
Circle on back to the beginning of the film, right?
All
the
right,
beginning of the film happens. Clive Owen's, he's getting some coffee in the morning, going to work. And I found this so fascinating, actually, if you really think about this happened on his way to work. Right?
Yes.
He goes, the world's mourning, young Diego, youngest person in the world, is now dead. Yeah. And I thought it was so fascinating how everybody's, mourning. People are like in the coffee shop, people are all, putting out flowers and their memorials. And then you hear the newscaster say something along the lines of, now the honor of the youngest person now goes to so-and-so who is 18 years, so-and-so days, so-and-so months. I'm just like, and just like that, It just moves right on.
They move along.
So there's a bomb that goes off in the coffee shop that he's
About
in.
immediately 8 seconds after that line.
The movie is now live for like
The rest of it.
like a minute before this happens. Like the movie starts, he's getting coffee, he comes out of the coffee shop, he's putting booze in his coffee, boom.
Little exposition, and then there we are.
And it's just, that's the movie. The movie puts you in a state of actual tension the entire time, with the exception of little moments here and there. Small
and then it tricks you.
pockets.
Because it tricks you into it. Because you want that. You want that in these very tense moments. You want these moments of levity. And then the movie completely betrays you. And you'll see this as a
It does
recurring
betray
film.
you.
It absolutely, this film,
Over and over again.
dear listener, this film absolutely betrays you about 6 or 7 times before the end of the film.
Dude, in this world, they, like, okay, the listeners here, they know all about how there's like that joke, that meme that you watch, any network television for any length of time, there's going to be a commercial about some sort of drug, some sort of pharmaceutical, and then like the entire commercial is a cartoon of a bird living life and just enjoying it, but the whole like minute and 10 seconds of the commercial are listing all the side effects of it.
Yes.
Right?
Disputan may cause diarrhea, homicidal tendencies.
Death.
Exactly.
But in this movie, in this world, because the world is ending, I should have I didn't write down the actual name of the medicine, but Quietol or something, where it's like basically you take it and it's a quiet, easy way to die for those who do not want to live in this world any longer.
To put it in a different term, and now because people have no hope, the human race is slowly but surely dying out because people cannot produce kids. The governments of the world have now begun mass manufacturing suicide kits for quiet, painless ways to end your life. And it's not just that concept, which is jarring enough. The idea that here is this, where we see, like Nicotrell or any of these things you see on TV, like today in our real world. It's the fact that it is so wisely accepted, and you see even in the background of those shots when you watching Clive Owen going, there's people with these boxes tucked under their arm, and it becomes central to plots later in Quietus, and it's very government sponsored suicide kits because there is no hope for the human race.
I mean, there's literally nothing,
or as the film will tell us.
Oh.
So. The youngest person in the world is dead.
Yes. And so Clive Owen could care less about this. He thinks he's quote unquote a wanker.
Yes.
A wanker, actually.
Oh, a wanker.
Dude, I really like Clive Owen a lot.
Oh, see, there is a period
Shoot
where
him up.
He could shoot him up, Sin City.
So good.
So it's like, and there's a time when you can go wrong. What's the movie that I really liked with Natalie Portman and Julia Roberts in it? Closer.
Yeah, that's one of his breakout films. I think.
Where Natalie Portman's a stripper in it, and it was really just a really thoughtful film, right? I think it was excellent. I don't know where it went off the rails. He did do one shitty movie with Jason Statham and Robert De Niro. Now, it wasn't the movie itself.
Listen, you say shitty movie with Jason Statham in the same sentence.
Yes, right.
Listen, Jason, don't come kick my ass. But seriously,
Jason. Actually, on a flip side, if you really care that much, I will tell you where to find Herb Jones. So just because I want to see it, I always want to see his face when he opens up the door. Did you say something about me? Anyway, but besides that, Clive Owen really hasn't done anything, at least that I remember. That was bad. He was in that King Arthur movie was kick-ass that he did. That was directed by Antoine Fuqua.
The last movie that I watched that he was in, the most recent film was Gemini Man.
I didn't see. Was that with Will Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Is that movie good?
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's a weird movie, but of course it is.
Yeah.
It's a weirdly ambitious film, which I highly recommend you watch, actually.
Yes. There's so many of those. I love action movies where you have one actor playing two people because you never really get that fight scene between the same actor. Yeah. Like, what was it? The Jean-Claude Double Impact.
Oh my God, Double for like 1991.
Yes. Hey, I'm supposed to be an American, but I'm coming to Hong Kong.
Let's listen to his best Jean-Claude Van Damme impersonation. This ought to be good.
Which is the same as my. Not to be confused
that was
with
Arnold.
Get this off like which is not to be confused with my Stallone. Right.
There's something about the '90s action films.
But dear God, dude, first of all, I love '90s action movies. But I mean, I know we're really sidebarred here.
That's the theme of everything. Here.
Just put it in your YouTube or your Google machine. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Double Impact, there's two Jean-Claude Van Dammes. There's the good, clean-cut polo shirt wearing Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's like, I'm a good guy. I come from Los Angeles. Yeah, bullshit. But moving along. And then there's dark, evil Jean-Claude Van Damme from Hong Kong. And dude has the most mullet ever. And it's like always wet. Dude was in like a 25-minute chase scene. It's always a wet, slick back mullet. It is, it is so good.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I mean, man, talk about a movie we should cover: Bloodsport.
Tong Po.
Broken Glass.
Tong Po.
Oh.
There's like a very few people in the world that if their fictional character became real, when I actively avoid the entire continent that they actually lived on, and Tong Po would be one of them.
Yeah, he was a bad man.
Bad man.
He was
dude.
a bad man.
But anyway, we're children of men. We have diverged again.
Yeah. So
he doesn't care. Clive Owen does not give any fucks about the state of the world, and the government is collapsing, and there's warring factions. As there typically be, because people are fighting for the scraps.
And really, we're not doing this justice realistically, because the world is gone to shit. Like hardcore. Like, you not only had too many beers the night before, but you had coffee because you're hangover type of shit.
Oh,
and it's
brutal.
bad, and it's difficult.
And you eat nothing but gummy worms.
And the sugar-free gummy worms, specifically.
And I think it's important also just to add in, because one would think, from a pure economic standpoint, that if there are no more people being born, that there is less burden, less strain on the resources of the world. So why would the world go to hell? But basically, a principal theme that is all over this movie, but it is extremely evident in the world and in Clive Owen, is that once you couldn't have babies anymore, motherfuckers just gave up. Yeah. And they stopped working, and they stopped producing resources, and the quality of life was the first thing to hit, and people gave up, and the world started getting worse, and then people started fighting for whatever scraps were actually left, and it takes us to the world we live in. Now,
there's something about the movie too. There's there's so much detail in this film.
God,
they did such a good job world building. It's because this is a science fiction film.
It technically is.
It is very sci-fi, actually.
It's a sci-fi
It doesn't have to have flying cars or laser swords or anything like that, but it is a very science fiction-y experience, and it's very grounded, because this could, air quotes, happen. There's a point where I'm trying to remember. It was in the beginning, because all this stuff's happening in the beginning. There's so much happening in the beginning. There's like an advertisement, right? And I never noticed it before. Why would I notice it? But I never noticed it. But now that I'm watching this movie, like really looking at details, like there's like an ad. I only saw it once for pet clothing. And I thought to myself, there are no more kids, but people still got to spend their money. Spend it on their fur babies. Like, there's so much weird capitalism in this movie too.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the underarching themes too. Not overarching, but underlining.
Like, it was sad.
Yeah, is that the world is going to hell, and everybody knows that there is eventually going to be no more people, because no more people are being born, but they're still selling us shit.
Yeah, they're still selling. There's ads for avoiding fertility tests is a crime. Like, there's so much anti-immigration propaganda throughout the entire film. It is so intense.
There's like a whole idea that somewhere along the lines, InfoWars became reality.
It became the government.
Yeah, and it is. It's shocking and awful.
There's a lot of propaganda actually in one of the first 10 minutes of the film. They world building yet again, and this is going to be a really big part of this movie is world building. There's the scene where they talk about how so many other countries have fallen.
Yeah.
Right.
Quote unquote.
But the United Kingdom still soldiers on, and I'm thinking every time I've seen the movie before, I go, oh, things are going to shit. But then I sat after really think, I'm like, did they fall? Or are they telling people that they fell?
I mean, that's almost like a common theme within British dystopianism. You see it not only in V for Vendetta, but you also see it in some Doctor Who episodes. I mean, I know we're getting way off base for 5 seconds, but there's even an idea where Britain itself has to physically leave the planet Earth in the Doctor Who mythos, so they put the entire country on the back of a giant space whale. because Britain must survive in Doctor Who.
It must
right?
survive.
Apparently, Britain must survive. So I mean that's very but I mean that's the overall theme is that look the people in V for Vendetta in this they're all just told that only Britain stands against the tide of darkness. But people are so wrapped up in the minutia political movements in their area and the destruction happening around them.
Yeah.
Then who gives a shit about what's happening in Canada?
Right. Well,
I mean,
no one does.
also generally,
No one cares about happening.
who gives a shit about what's happening in Canada? Dear
Not
listener,
Canadians.
Yeah, dear listener, if you're listening to this in Canada,
I apologize.
we both
Love
immensely
Canada.
apologize. We love Canada, but we also apologize for you.
Because you're in Canada.
Because who gives a shit what happens in Canada?
So let's move this along a little bit, right?
All right,
So,
yeah.
because okay, so Theo goes to work, he leaves work, and he gets kidnapped, right?
He just all of a sudden bagged and tagged, thrown in the back of a truck.
And it's by the Fishes. That's a terrorist group who are against the anti-immigration laws in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom, rather.
Terrorist group / liberation.
Liberation.
One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Who you
and
ask.
that is a huge part of this movie, too, but keep going.
And it turns out that he's been abducted by the leader of the Fishes, which is his ex-wife. What's her name?
Doesn't matter, played by Julianne Moore, henceforth referred to as Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore from here on in. She doesn't matter. She's only around for 27 more minutes. Anyhow.
Yep. But it's a good 27 minutes.
The rest seems so good. So she wants his help because she trusts him, and she wants him to not escort, but get the passage papers for a specific person, somebody from Fiji. I think she referred to as a Fiji.
Ephesian.
From Great Britain to the ocean, basically.
Right. You have to in the world of dystopian future. There's a lot of checkpoints that somebody has to pass through.
Yes, and she's an immigrant, so it's a big deal.
Yes, hot topic in the country.
She won't tell him why, and he's like, "Well, why do you want me to do that?" And she's like, "Why? I trust you." And then he basically says, "Fuck off," and he's like, "Well, if you think about it, there's money in it for you." Blah 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 blah. He changes his mind. He goes to his cousin. Now, there's a really interesting point to this. I never even thought about this before. Again, this movie makes you think about things, especially through the lens of 2020. The year 2020, and the experience that was for pretty much everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
But on my level in the United States, so he goes to his cousin who's very well off, and now he's on this bus. He's going through the shit part of town, and then he just no. I'm sorry, not a bus, in a car. He's being escorted through town to this immaculate, beautiful place where all the wealthy people live, and
such a stark contrast to the world we've been built up to at this point in the film.
So his cousin is, I guess, some sort of curator for the art arc.
Yes,
and so basically, literally, what it sounds like, they're gathering all of these really old, popular, famous, important why now at this point, right? Works of art, and I don't know. They didn't really explain what the arc is, but I'm sure it's a building. I'm not going to shoot off into space, I'm sure.
Not yet. Children of Men 2.
And this guy has connections, basically. And he agrees to help Theo eventually. But there's a scene that really struck me when I watched it on Friday. And it really fucked with me. Because it made me think of so many other things that people have said to me or didn't say, actually. So, his cousin, I think, had already agreed to do this for him at this point, I think. So he waves him over to, this window, and they're looking off into, the courtyard of this it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's clean. Everybody's well-fed, Everybody's happy, or whatever happy is. Mm-hmm. And Theo, the ever-pessimist, the realist, goes, You fucking kill me. Why are you doing all this? It's not going to matter in 50 years anyhow. Look at the world around you. Why go through all the effort? No one's going to appreciate this later on, down the line. And his cousin looks at him. I think he's sipping his tea. And he goes, honestly, I just don't think about it. And when he said that, now this is the sixth time I've seen this film, maybe eighth, something like that, maybe. The weight of that line hit me, because there are people in the world, people in this country, not to be that guy, but that's why we're talking about this, right? Like, who don't even recognize the awful things that happen in the world, that happen in their backyard, that happen across the town from them, that happen across the state from them. Mm-hmm. They don't even think about it. It's just not even there. They're just worried about the bubble that they exist in. And I'm just like, man, that is... And after watching what happened last year, you know, the protests and just the violence and just the social unrest and all the awful things that have happened to good people for so long. Mm-hmm. And I've had conversations with people, and they don't come out and explicitly say, well, I just don't think about it. But that's kind of what they're saying. Yeah. They just don't think about it.
It doesn't affect me. Mm-mm. Yeah, you hear that.
And it was heavy. Yeah. I'm like, man, this movie, still, to this day.
Yeah, and we are barely halfway through Act 1, folks.
Get yourself a drink.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Yeah, first of all, we're enjoying our mead here. So I think it's important we'll move it forward and then kind of just overlook here. So Clive Owen, though, it's his job is he works for the government.
I don't remember what he does. It's something for the government, though.
And he's not directly able to move, but he's in a quid pro quo kind of a situation where he's able to do things for others, and Julianne Moore knows this. Now, let's give a little context here into the relationship as we build up. So what we know is that Clive Owen gets abducted. His ex-wife is really the leader of the abductors, and they want him to get papers to help smuggle an immigrant through the country to a boat that's supposed to be waiting for her at the end of the ocean. Now, he and Julianne Moore were married happily. Yes. For a period of time. She herself is an American in England and is an immigrant. Yeah. Until such a time that a terrible tragedy befalls them, and basically, as we now find out at this point in the film, is what shattered Clive Owen well before the world ever began to end. Would you?
Yeah. So they had a little boy. And his name was Dylan, and Dylan died hit from the flu. Interestingly. And that was like a lot of, I mean, I have thankfully no experience in that. I don't really know too many people who have, thankfully, but I've heard of, and I know of that, you know, that can ruin, destroy a marriage, a relationship,
a whole person.
You know, how can you look at the other person the same way? Whether it's had nothing to do with being their fault, but you can't help but see that child in them, you know, so that's, and everybody grieves differently. But yeah, that's their wedge. That's the big wedge.
That is the thing. And it's very evident that though Clive Owen is so damn jaded in this movie, and I mean, for the first half of almost 2/3 of the movie, just so damn jaded in the movie. When he lets his guard down slightly, you can see that there is a pure affinity between he and Julianne Moore in this film. But that tragedy, that darkness, the loss of their child, it's almost like as we mentioned earlier, the film will constantly betray you, and that betrays them. They have a normal conversation amidst all this chaos for a few moments, and then they look away and they look back at each other, and you know they both just see their deceased child, and the wall goes back up.
There's actually,
and it's all business.
There's a point where I think Julianne Moore's character says to Theo, you know, he had your eyes. I can't I can't look at you. Like you had his eyes, and it's like, that's heavy.
That's super heavy. Yeah.
Like my heart goes out to people who have ever had to experience something like that.
Oh God, anywhere close to that. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure. So
we move along, and he actually it's a kind of a fun. In my mind, it's a throwaway scene, but it kind of like speaks to Theo and type of person that he is. So he says yes. And he's in contact with this guy named Luke, who is like, I guess, sort of like the second in command to Julianne Moore's character.
Yeah.
Chiwetel's character.
Yes.
His name's Luke, and he is sort of like the go-between for a while, and he's the one who kind of negotiates a little bit with Theo. When Theo says, okay, I'll do it, basically, he gives him the money, and like next scene, Theo's at the racetrack. Yeah. This is Theo, right? Like he's given like $5,000, pounds, whatever it was, I'm not really sure. And I don't remember if they even explicitly say.
No.
I would assume it's pounds.
Yeah.
Do they still do pounds?
And they do again.
Okay, because I thought there was a change for a while.
I think it was pounds, and then I think
like
it was euros and
yes.
pounds, and now Brexit is a thing.
Oh,
at least
yeah,
at this
yeah,
point,
that's right.
Brexit is a thing. Who knows? By the time this
Brexit
podcast
feels
comes
like
out.
it was 10 years ago because of 2020. Honestly, so many things feel like
we had a lot of build up
1,000 years ago.
We had a lot of build up to Brexit, though. I mean, and really, it was kind of like it's like I'm gonna.
Are you though? But
like that's it. You're like, after that. Yeah.
So yeah, they are using pounds again. But anyhow, so let's assume it was pounds. But it was a lot of pounds. And where was I at? So
yeah, he gambles the money away.
And then he's pulled away to Julianne Moore while he's trying to cash in his win, which was it was a fun scene, but again, throwaway. So now he meets the person he's supposed to get the papers to. But the problem is, here's a big plot point. He couldn't just get the papers just for her. He has to escort. He'd only get it for 2 people, so it has to be him. He has to escort her to this particular location, which changes everything. So that's when we meet Key, who is the woman in question, the young lady in question. Immediately, she does not like him. And as an aside, like it seems like we're probably going through a lot of like random point beats, but these are really somewhat important. They're not going to go through scene by scene, but the ones that are important.
Act 1 is a mishmash of world building, character building, and conversation. We haven't even mentioned that before this, Jasper gets included.
No,
we'll that again in a minute. But I think Key is, I think Clive Owen is so reactionary, but Key is our first truly intuitive character in the entire film. You see that a lot in really great films. It's like this person just watches the world evolve around them, and then Key is the first person who kind of braces for impact, as we would find out
the whole time.
But previous to accepting Julianne Moore's and Luke's offer, Clive Owen consults with Jasper, his best friend, his only real friend,
Michael Caine.
by Michael Caine, the amazing Michael Caine,
the goddamn beast, Michael Caine,
the goddamn beast, Michael Caine, who is sitting there now. Michael Caine is a hippie in this. For the long story short, he's out in the middle of the forest. He's already old.
He's already old. Jesus, man.
Like super old. Like older than Michael Caine normally.
He was already old.
Michael, I came out of the womb already 54 years old. Came out with an ARP card. I said, "Where's this going on here?"
I was already okay.
No matter what's going on. So he confides with Michael Caine. Michael Caine is delightful, and he adds a lot of humor to this, and he gives you that kind of detached hippie thought. I mean, he knew Theo, Clive Owen, and Julianne Moore when they were married previously, and he knew their son. So he has a connection to the story as well.
Yes.
And additionally, Michael Caine has a wife who is catatonic.
Yes.
She is alive, but in a vegetative state. And he talks to her and he feeds her, but she is completely unresponsive. Do we ever find out why?
So world building alert. Mm-hmm. Repeat, world building alert. Mm-hmm. So they're so good at this. So they don't explicitly say what happens. I'm sure maybe if the same characters are in the book, they go and probably deep dive it. But no single person brings it up because in reality, why would you? But there's a lot of setup shots. I believe it's the first time we even go to Jasper's house, which is way off the beaten path, hidden from the rest of society. He's like off the grid.
Like literally, there's a bush in front of the road you have to move.
Several bushes, at least several bushes
to move to get to Jasper's house.
There's like a couple of like newspaper clippings about like award-winning journalist indicating that that's his wife, and then there's another one towards the end before you like kind of move to the like, real establishing shot of the characters where it says, something like unknown assailants or. No one knows who tortured the reporter, mm-hmm. Award-winning reporter. So basically, she was brutalized and tortured, mm-hmm. and it put her in a catatonic state, which is fucking heartbreaking.
Oh man, which is the theme of the movie and his character. God. But regardless, So there you go. So Michael Caine takes care of his catatonic wife,
Yeah.
and his Clive Owens
and their dog,
and Clive Owen's only remaining friend. And so Clive Owen Theo, he feeds off of Michael Caine and asks his opinion about what he should do and should he help out Julianne Moore. And Michael Caine kind of gives him the guidance to progress the film, but also a little subtle thing, he notices that Michael Caine has a box of quietus.
Yeah.
Quietus there, and he starts to give Michael Caine this inquisitive look, and Michael Caine passes it. Oh, just wanted to see where it was, toss it around and blows it off. And so he taking this advice from his friend, and he accepts. And now we find out, fast forwarding back to where we last left off through our latest divergence, Clive Owen meets the guarded Key. A young girl from Fiji who is watched over by her caregiver, played by Principal Trunchbull.
The character's name was Marianne, not Marielle, but what was
Miriam?
Miriam.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, and so which now starts probably one of the cooler scenes in the entire film. Not the best, but one of the cooler scenes in the entire film. It's the car scene, right? That car scene is 247 seconds long of a continued shot.
But it feels like a lifetime. So, you have a car.
You have a car.
You have a car. And in this car are Luke in the front seat. I believe, is Marion Melson in the front seat with Luke?
No. So, Luke is driving.
Yes.
Chiwetel's driving. Julianne Moore's character is in the passenger side. In the back seat, from left to right, or technically right to left, would be Theo, Miriam, Key.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This scene was so cool, and I had to find out how they even shot it. I was kind of curious. And
before we do,
yes,
they are going from the last checkpoint they left and managed to smuggle themselves through on their journey from central London to this coast. Their first checkpoint is to go through this checkpoint into this forested area to a safe house for the Fishes, this revolutionary group.
Yeah.
Continue.
So this scene, it is really cool because it's going around in a circle, like around everybody in the shot in this car. And from what I read, again, cursory research, they had to create a machine to do this. And everybody, as the camera would kind of pan, people would have to duck around because they're in this car. Mm-hmm. They're ducking and moving, getting themselves back into shot, and then they're continuing this shot. It is probably one of 2, maybe 3 moments of levity in the entire film.
Just before then, and I'll tell you, if you said pick out a line from Children of Men, I think a Strawberry Cough would be one of them.
Strawberry Cough? Yeah.
But the one is, do you still like it in the afternoons?
Right,
and for some strange reason, because that is the purest moment between Clive Owen and Julianne Moore in this, and I think it really will represent, in spoiler alert, the last time we will ever see Clive Owen be happy in the rest of this entire film.
Yeah, it was the only time we ever saw him happy. Yeah. Really, truly, maybe with Jasper initially, he seemed like he was content,
unguarded.
He was enjoying his time with his friend.
Yeah,
he was enjoying time with his brother, in a sense. But with his ex-wife, the mother of their dead son, in this moment, and they're playing this weird game with a ball. They're blowing the ball from one mouth to the other, and it was fucking strange.
It's a weird party game.
I've never seen people do that before. I've
seen it with a card in real life, and it usually just ends up with 2 people unnecessarily kissing. And then you're like, do you know where that mouth has been? Well, but I continue. Yeah. You know what? Let's transition to our newest segment. Do you know where that mouth has been? Sponsored by What That Mouth Do.
What's
the new deodorant for new age. What That Mouth Do. Find out at whatthatmouthdo.com. Do not go to that website.
You don't want to know what
Don't go to that website.
You don't want to know what that mouth do.
No, you do not want to know what that mouth do. Anyway, speaking of What That Mouth Do, so they're playing a game in the car.
Yeah. Just a great moment. Everybody's laughing. I mean, everybody's enjoying. Maybe Luke's not, but I can't remember.
Driving.
He's focused on the road. But everybody's, even Key, who initially did not like Theo's character whatsoever, starting to warm up to him because she's seeing him not being a miserable drunken asshole.
Yeah.
You know, and Julianne Moore's character's lowering her guard. He's lowering his guard. And it's just it's years, having not seen this film for years and going back and watching it. I knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I was still enjoying that moment because it was still a pure, happy moment between two people who have a real connection.
Yeah.
And then everything goes to shit real fast.
So the car traveling through this country road on the way to this safe house meets what we're led to believe at first is a bunch of displaced people. And you have to think earlier in the film, it was not uncommon to see mass people being restless, and riotous. But here we come across it in the middle of this wood, and all of a sudden you think, oh man, perhaps like a touch of the Highwaymen, right? This is meant
the Marauders.
You know, some literally people meant to hijack anyone dumb enough to go down this random country road. What seems strange, but again, in this movie's theme, it becomes so anxious so quickly,
claustrophobic,
that you don't have a chance to really go, well, why are they dealing with this and what's going on here? Because all of a sudden it goes from happiness to, it's like a scene in a zombie movie almost. You know, like all of a sudden a character turns around and just covered in zombies. Yeah. But instead of it being this undead, overdone trope, it's just people, that are just absolutely just poured all over this car.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking like
Molotov
plus
cocktails.
They're trying to get to this car,
and all of a sudden, there we see from some motorcycles coming up from around the rear end. Clearly, it's not just this random riot in the middle of the woods. It's a hijacking.
It's very specific. It's very intentional.
It's an attack.
And as one of the guys on the motorcycle rolls up. And
everyone's giving direction to Luke.
God, and and just even saying it, even though it's a movie, man, it sucked. Like it sucked.
It takes wind right out.
And then they aim the pistol and they shoot through the windshield and shoot Julianne Moore character right in the neck. And Theo is trying to hold the pressure down. He's trying to keep her alive. Her. Yeah, he's directly behind her. He's watching the woman that gave birth to his son, who passed away, dying in his hands. He's trying to keep the pressure on the wound. She's gonna die. And the whole time, Luke is he's driving backwards in that shot. Trying to get away from whatever the fuck's going on, right? Everybody's panicking. Everybody's freaking out. But then here's Theo trying to keep his ex-wife from dying, even though he knows deep down, I'm sure, that it's a losing battle. So they actually, interesting, important plot point. So the I don't know who it was. It had to have been him. Yeah. So they shoot her, and the motorcycle kind of comes alongside of the car, and Theo opens the car door and hits him. And dude just wipes out hard.
Completely wipes out.
There's two of them.
Two of them on a bike, yeah.
Wipes
and
out
they both wipe out real bad.
That's important. Don't forget that.
Yeah, just put a pin in that for about 5 minutes from now.
They get away. Barely get away. And they come across two police officers. Luke gets out. I mean, listen. There was no way out of this, obviously, because the car's been caught on fire. The windshield's gone. There's a dead person in the passenger side in the front seat.
Yeah, it's very bloody.
He gets out. He's trying to tell the police officer that we're not immigrants, and then he just shoots the police officer's dead. Just bang, 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 and then they get in the car and they drive off.
And by the way, everybody in the car not happy about this.
No, it's a shit show, to put it mildly. So they next shot, they got Julianne Moore's character. They got her off in the field, in the woods.
They're pulling over into a field house. They make it to
before they do that. They put her kind of to rest. But this is the only reason I'm even bringing up the scene is because there's a really important character moment for Theo, because Miriam is doing the shante 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 over her, blessing her her spiritual journey from this point forward or whatever. And Clive Owen walks off, and I think he goes to open a bottle of booze or something. And he kind of gets close to a tree, and he just crumbles, just collapses in grief, collapses in his sadness.
That's right, yeah.
And good scene, man. Clive, man, he pulled that shit out of nowhere, and really good, really powerful scene. He only gets to grieve for not even 30 seconds. I don't even think it was that long before Luke rolls up. We gotta go. And then Theo pulls his shit together, and then it's just full steam ahead from that point forward.
Yeah. So after the burial, quote unquote, of Julianne Moore and the crumpling of Clive Owen,
and he crumpled.
Oh, he crumpled hard, just like your notes. Crumpled, sad and British, just like your notes.
Oh,
so they finally arrive at the Fish's safe house.
Yeah.
And it becomes a kind of a race to ditch the battered vehicle. No, they had already swapped out the battered vehicle by then. So it's a race here now to try to touch bases. Clearly, Julianne Moore, the leader of this revolutionary group, is now deceased. Yeah. And so Luke has to organize with other leaders what to do next.
Right.
Now, it's important to notice that just right around the same time that Julianne Moore bites it, Key has some distress going on about her that Miriam has to kind of attentive to. So when they arrive at the safe house, it's especially distressing to Clive Owen, because here's Luke goes off to do revolutionary stuff. Key and Miriam go off, and Clive Owen's not included in this, Theo. So he's just kind of left to kind of put pieces of this, and basically, and which is one of the only weak plot points in the entire film, they leave Clive Owen to wander around this compound, this random farmhouse in the middle of the idea, and what you see, what he sees, what we see Clive Owen see, is, as we had mentioned a few moments ago, he totally takes out a motorcycle with two people in there.
Right.
And he hears what sounds like a motorcycle.
Wait. You are on the right track, but
steer me. Steer me like a good ship.
All right. So there's some details that Mr. Brown here is omitting. So that scene you're talking about does happen, but it happens after what the most important part is.
Oh, that happens after the most important part. I thought it happened before. I'm sorry.
So there's a couple little pop points that I think
fill us in.
That are really important.
Take us there, Doc.
Okay. So they show up. They get there. Theo's exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody's traumatized.
The movie hasn't really stopped.
Yeah, this is the first time it's really slowed down.
From the minute we first meet Michael Caine until right now, the movie hasn't slowed down.
Right. So they arrive. They give him some clean new clothes. But there's a little plot point that I like to point out that's really important. At one point, when they arrive, the guy who owns the house and his wife, they're like fishes as well. They have these 2 or 3 dogs. They're like their guard dogs. And at one point, the guard dogs, they roll up on Theo, and they've been super friendly. And the guy says, Theo, oh, they like you. Oh, they like you. I don't like anybody. Anyhow, so Theo changes clothes and takes a shower. Who knows why? Gets a bite to eat. I'd like to think he ate some food. At one point, Key would like to speak with Theo because Key was told by Julianne Moore's character, that Theo's the only person you can really trust.
Yes, this happens off screen.
Yeah,
correct. Yes,
this becomes what she communicates to him.
Exposition to Theo.
So
with her distress.
Yeah. So it's a really fascinating scene. Actually, it is a weird scene. I'm sure there's some symbolism that I'm just not catching.
Oh, there's a lot, and I'm going to unpack all this at the cows. End of the movie. We're going to go into this at the end when we pack out all the allegories in the film.
Okay, so they say, hey, Key wants to talk to you. She wants, for whatever reason. So Theo is allowed with Miriam to go, and because Theo has like that guy with him who owned the house, like he's watching him. He's Theo goes into this barn house, and amongst a bunch of cows, there's Key standing there talking to him, making idle chit chat, really. And then eventually, Theo's like, "What am I even doing here? Why do you need to go to the coast? Why? What do you need? What do you need? I don't understand what's going on here.
What is the point of all this?
What's going on here?" And that was a terrible.
God, that was so bad. It was amazing.
Let's pretend I didn't do that.
I'll be posting that as a ringtone on our website. What's going on here?
So anyhow, Key then disrobes directly in front of Theo to reveal that she is in fact pregnant.
She is with child.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, if you've lost sight of this, the world is infertile.
Yeah, completely. The world, not just Great Britain.
The world is infertile, and standing before Theo, who has literally, moments before this, lost the last connection he really has to his old life and the way the world was, and now standing before him is in fact a pregnant woman, which isn't supposed to be possible.
Not possible. It's a kind of a miracle.
It is absolutely a miracle. And in that moment, the sacrifice of his ex-wife and so many other things, and it all starts to click.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes here. The very last thing I wrote because the very end of the movie, I wrote it and I starred a bunch of things. So I starred this. It's very much a theme for the movie, amongst many other themes. Is so much loss for so much gain,
and
it's really
that's real good.
And it's just like the thing that like really stuck out to me was that so many people died or died
Suffer and die.
Suffered for
It isn't just easy die.
this.
Yeah.
For this to happen, for this to be a thing, and for us to go now from this point to where we're gonna end the movie, a lot has to go on. So anyhow, she reveals herself to be with child. It's kind of a big fucking deal. The biggest of all deals.
It is the biggest deal in the world at this point. That it's the only thing important in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody.
Wow, that is the most important thing in the world.
It's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody can know. And nobody
No one's
does
allowed to
know.
So
Because
now,
what will happen is about what we're about to see. About to go down.
So okay, so now Theo now is in on the secret.
He's in the loop.
Everybody else knows. But now he knows.
He was the only one in that car when Julianne Moore bit it that didn't know.
Right. So now he knows. Now he knew the gravity of the situation. So he goes back in the house, and the fishes are all discussing who's going to become the new leader of the fishes. Ends up being Luke. But they're talking about, and this really fascinating lines of dialogue about what we should do. Because Julian's plan was to get Key to the coast. Because the Human Project was going to theoretically... The Human Project, there's a whole other freaking subplot.
Well, yes.
The Human Project...
Let's finish this thing, and then we'll go into the Human Project.
Well, this is the whole point, right? The Human Project is a group that are basically trying to... A bunch of the smartest people in the world who are trying to keep the world from ending. And they need this baby. They need this girl and this baby.
So... To this point in the film, the Human Project is a bit of a fairy tale. It's the story that parents, that people tell each other
to give themselves
some sort of hope that out there, somewhere out on the ocean, is a boat or a series of boats that's the Human Project, and they're fighting to keep humanity alive and try to figure out all of our problems and how we can go on. Yeah. And no one, especially our protagonist, Clive Owen, no one really fully buys it.
Yeah.
But it becomes evident that Julianne Moore did.
Yeah, so she communicated with them via mirrors. Mm-hmm. So one person would talk to one person, who would talk to one person, who would talk to one person, who would then talk to her through the Human Project. Mm-hmm. Which all sounds like bullshit anyhow.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Especially to
Theo. Old school spy network stuff.
Yeah. So to Clive Owen's character, that sounds like utter bullshit. Mm-hmm. And he's like, are you fucking serious? Just take her to a doctor. And the room full of fish is like, are you fucking crazy? The UK would not recognize the first pregnant person in the world being a Fiji, being an immigrant.
Being an immigrant. Yes, and
that was so heavy to me. Like, And
yes. So now we can start to really full on dissect. Here we are, an hour into our podcast, and we can really start to dissect one of the central plot points besides trust, which is in this film, is that so when no children are born and people stop caring, resources become limited. And as we know, even in the world today, in 2021, when we're recording this, in a world where though we suffer through a global pandemic, there are an abundance of resources. We waste more resources than we ever could possibly use, but there are still, to this point, many people in especially Western culture here in the United States of America that like to blame immigration for a use of resources, it is a very, I mean, we not to get political on our podcast,
Right.
but it is a huge conservative talking point that there's only so many resources to go around, and immigrants take up an unnecessary chunk of them. And that's under now, which is as good as this dystopian future that we're looking at it could ever possibly be. So now you're in this where resources are actually limited, and there are actual problems, and people put a lot of the emphasis on immigration, which
time.
will keep coming up in this film.
And I didn't really say it because I didn't really think about it. I don't think you thought about it, but the world building alert. So, multiple times at this point, there's in the city, in London, wherever they are. I mean, we're talking like full-on immigration centers. We're talking people behind fences.
Oh yeah.
There's people, all immigrants, just being treated third-class citizens. It's treated terribly. And it's not even the worst you're going to see in this movie, by the way. But this is just people. This is Theo just walking down the street with his fucking coffee, watching people behind fences. But there's like guard
cages
dogs
on the corners of streets.
Yeah. So this is
keeping
the world
people locked up. Yes.
that they're in. So this is like a real heavy situation.
So, and I mean, and also, you're going to find yourself, when you watch this film, you're going to find, if you haven't already, and I'm sure if you have watched it, you're like us, and you have found yourself looking is that, so you absolutely sympathize with the plight of the immigrant, especially in this film, and how unfair, and there's like a complete lack of any national government sympathy for the immigrant. It's actually it's more of an antithesis, right?
Yeah.
But a central point that emerges from this exact conversation is that the fishers are like, are you kidding? We can't possibly let the government know that this woman is pregnant.
Right.
And so that now you're getting into the fish's agenda, right? And so we never really, to a certain point, get to really figure out what that stance is ever going to officially would be, how the British government would react to a baby, because the fishes are bound to never ever let it be an issue. So now at this point you have no reason not to trust the fishes in this regard, but it just kind of gives you an idea is that here's a situation, and a central point which we will go into later in this film. I think really the main central allegory in this movie is that when a problem is so dire and a solution can possibly be presented, people immediately rush to politicize it. And that is what this movie says. We're going to politicize saving art. We're going to politicize resources. We're going to politicize the end to infertility. They're going to politicize the youngest person in the world. And they immediately rush to label it, brand it, and make it their solution. And that is going to be a absolute theme from this point here. And we're only in the second act of this movie, people.
This movie is heavy. Like I said,
it is the heaviest.
This movie is a whole lot. And it's a lot to digest if you're open to it.
And we are just getting to the good part.
So, okay. So now that I had interrupted you, you now can...
I can continue with the motorbike.
I apologize.
So after this whole ordeal, Luke, the driver of the car in which Julianne Moore is killed, is now elected leader of the fishes. Clive Owen has seen that Key, this young immigrant, is in fact pregnant with what could be, and is most likely, the only baby in the world. Is inside this woman. His ex-wife was killed earlier that day, and he's just outside of this safe house trying to process this, amidst this dystopian, apocalyptic, and political turmoil, when he hears a motorbike approach. And lo and behold, as he follows in his very inquisitive nature, because really at this point, what does he have to do except absorb? It's what he's been doing all day, just absorbing and reacting. That's what he does the whole movie. And he notices that the motorbike looks very eerily similar to the motorbike that Don fucked up when trying to save Julianne Moore's life. And oh no, it is the same motorbike.
The guy's getting off. Here's the thing. The one is like dying. Yeah. The other one is actually the one with the dreadlocks. He was one of the ones that kidnapped.
I'm just going to go ahead and just go point. There's a lot of white people with dreadlocks in this movie.
There's a couple.
Yeah. There's
like two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but they're all central.
Was that too many for you?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, possibly. I don't know. We'll have tune in for a future episode about cultural appropriation, especially British people in dystopian apocalyptic features. But I was going to say the white guy with dreadlocks because he comes up later. But I feel like there are multiple. Why I brought that up is there are multiple white guys with dreadlocks in the second half of this movie.
Well, 2.
Okay. Well, the first one we see.
The first one is Michael Caine.
He doesn't. He has a ponytail.
I thought he had dreadlocks.
No, he has.
He has really long hair.
He has really. He's full. He's like OG hippie. He's got like photographer.
I stand
long hair.
very corrected.
He's like if steampunk never really ever and this is a world where steampunk never had time to exist because the world ended. But somebody would be steampunky with Michael Caine's hair in this. We're getting off base. Yeah. So anyway, the motorcycle guys show up, and it's the 2 people that were on that bike that Clive Owen straight fucked up, and one of those guys is dying.
Yeah.
And the other one that's not dying is a white guy in dreadlocks. There we go, and he is pissed.
He wants to off Theo, and that's when Luke says, "We'll do him in the morning after we move the girl." And it's like, and now Theo was on the other side he's like on the outside of the house. He snuck out on the outside of the house. He's by the window.
Really knew until that moment. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, because so now it's obviously revealed, if you haven't been paying attention, that Luke was effectively behind Julian's murder.
Yes.
Which is a big fucking deal.
It's not a murder now. It's an assassination.
It's a hit.
It's a hit.
She was assassinated. It was wet work.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck that even means.
I don't know. Somebody will point it out to us. Actually, no, they won't because
no one knows what it means.
Fucked up. We've already recorded this, and we don't care. Hopefully, we never say the word wet work again.
You just fucking did.
We're working towards a different subject, but no, yeah, it's a political assassination. Almost the point.
Yeah.
So because undoubtedly, as you find out, Luke has absolutely no desire to turn Key and her soon-to-be-born child over to the Human Project because Luke has a political agenda.
And Luke is insane.
Yes.
There's a really cool shot though, like right before they end that scene, where he comes over to the guy, the guy, the dreadlocks, and he's like, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of your cousin, because his cousin's the one who's about to die. He was on the motorcycle. Like, he's a good soldier. You're a good soldier. All this stuff, and he goes, and he just pulls out his gun, puts 2 cents. If you break protocol ever again, I'll shoot you. Mm-hmm. Like stone cold,
straight up.
Luke ain't right.
See, now I didn't see it as crazy.
You did? Oh man, that's what I saw.
And it's not as like a crazy as in mental illness crazy. I think that you're at the point where in a survival situation, right? You see that trope in a lot of situations where a character has been so exposed to a survival situation for so long that their rationale is completely shot. Mm-hmm. And I think we have the luxury being in the audience that we just jump in with Clive Owen in the beginning of this movie as a person who simply doesn't care. He's almost just waiting to die, right? But these people care so much. Julianne Moore, Luke, the Fishes, and a lot of their political rivals.
Everybody cares way more than he does.
They care so much that they've been driven into... This is not like their first survival situation. This is multiple levels. And at this point, Luke has been well exposed, well before the start of this film, to the idea that he knows that there's a pregnant woman.
Yeah. And
they have access to her. And he has gone from being... possibly before the film ever starts reactionary to he's convinced himself that this is right because it's a survival situation, not just for him, but for his political group, for his country, perhaps for even the whole world. And there is nothing else to consider. This must be the way. And so I didn't see crazy as in snapped lunacy eating somebody. I saw absolutely when you rub that paper so it's thin and you can see through it, and all it takes is just a little pinprick, and now there's no bottom to it anymore, and there's nothing he won't do. And I think by killing, because you clearly see earlier in the film, Act 1, you see clear reverence for Luke for Julianne Moore. Like, he sees that this is he answers to her. He respects her completely. But he has her murdered because he thinks that the solution for Key is
to stay with them.
Yes. And so that's a point. I don't see that as crazy. I see that as so desperate that he becomes cold to it.
All right. Well,
in my opinion. But moving along.
Yeah. So
the plan is that Clive Owen's going to die in the morning through a white guy with dreadlocks.
They're going to put him.
If
down.
I'm ever going to be murdered, please don't let it be by a white guy with dreadlocks. Please. Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
You know, it's all white guys with dreadlocks. Stay the fuck away from me. At least with murder in your eyes, all right? Go see somebody else
in
with
your
that.
eyes.
I avoid people with murder in their eyes around me.
You should try.
But especially if I see a white guy with dreadlocks coming with hate in his eyes, I am not getting out of my car. My doors are going locked, and I'm going to drive to a place where I feel safe, like a Barnes and Noble.
Another really cool scene. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time breaking it down, but it was this movie has a lot of really cool extended one-shot, one-cut scenes.
Oh, yeah. It's a hallmark of the film from a cinematography standpoint.
And this is another one. Not nearly as long as the car shot or the other shot we'll talk about later, but it's a really cool one that he's like, messing with the other cars, sneaking them out. So he gets Key, gets Miriam. He says, listen, they had Julian killed. They want to do this and this. You can't be trusted. Let's get the fuck out of here. They're like, all right, word, let's go.
Yep.
So he sneaks them out. A really cool shot. So the really important part of this scene is he like pulls like the I don't know, like the certain like cables that go to like the battery to different cars as he's sneaking around.
He renders other cars completely inoperable. Yeah.
And he gets to the car he needs to get to. He gets in, but it needs to be like jump started or something. And he pushes it.
It has to be pushed to get the motor going. So there's your tension. Yeah.
So they get in the car. They finally get it down the hill, but it stops. It like just runs like it doesn't go any farther. So, fun fact, like I said before, the dogs had approached him earlier in the movie, liked him a lot, and the guy who owned the dogs in the house says, "Oh, they don't like anybody," but these two or three dogs, didn't have a problem with them whatsoever. These dogs reached them before everybody else does, and they just run around him.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do anything. Nothing. They just bark at him.
They have no interest in
harming him. They could have torn him limb from limb. End of movie. Which is why I wrote in my notes that the dogs are the real heroes to the movie.
Oh, I like that.
Because if those dogs had treated him like they treated everybody else,
the movie would have ended there.
It would have ended there.
Yeah.
But the dogs saved the world.
They did in a lot of ways. Spoiler alert for how the movie ends, but yeah, for
sure.
In fact,
I didn't. You still. Hey, you should have seen the movie by now.
God damn it! Your father is crying. Your father is now sitting there wearing your underpants in his laundry area, just hating you because you didn't fucking watch Children of Men. God damn it!
So anyhow,
think about your ancestors.
They were able to get away. And make a speedy getaway to Jasper's.
Well, I mean, Clive Owen realizes where they are, and they're not too far off from a place that, as we mentioned earlier, Jasper's house is very well hidden.
Yeah, it's off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
They get there, and it's Jasper is really excited to find out that there's a baby coming into the world.
He is super stoked.
Yeah, and again, the other part of levity in this entire movie is this scene.
Yes, this is the other. There are really two memorable lines of dialogue in this entire thing that aren't heartbreaking lines of dialogue, and they're the only two moments of levity in the scene. So now Jasper is so excited that Clive Owen showed up, and he's got a pregnant girl, and he has new people to meet, that he breaks out the good weed.
Yeah, strawberry cough.
Strawberry cough, and it's called out because after you take a hit and you cough, you taste strawberries.
Although Theo apparently did not.
No,
because he's a son of a bitch.
Yes, so. Well, I mean, of course, he wants bourbon cough.
He wants bourbon cough.
But, I mean, you gotta think. So here's what's interesting is that this is the last point in the film that we get before this whole thing starts. This is before they push the cart over the hill, and the thing just continues until this whole thing bottoms out. And here you get the last point of pure, honest, like contemplation in the film for these characters. So Key, so we'll go back. We'll end with Key last. So Clive Owen is still trying to wrap his damn head about what he's going to do, and how he has decided through the course of his stay here to continue to find the Human Project. And now Miriam is her number one priority is still Key, right? Mm-hmm. And Michael Caine, Jasper, is just over the moon elated to have someone to smoke weed with that's not Clive Owen, right? But Key, this is her probably, from her perspective, with the exception of the car, and even then, because she doesn't fully, as we know, trust Clive Owen yet at that point in the movie, and definitely doesn't trust Luke, as we would find out. This is probably her most pure interaction with anybody in the entire film. And she's sitting in the middle of this area while Principal Trunchbull and Michael Caine act circles around this entire room, right? Well, Clive Owen just sits there and reacts to it. And it's just like, all right, I'm gonna back up and let this happen, right?
Yeah.
So
was that Clive Owen?
That was not.
That was awful too.
That was terrible.
So I don't hear your shit.
I did a good one earlier. Dear listener, go back and listen
to my
Clive Owen. And my Michael Caine isn't bad, but that was terrible. That was terrible. As a matter of fact, I'm going to outdo Clive Owen as an Australian man.
I thought you said Clive Owen as Michael Caine.
I'm going to do Michael Caine as Clive Owen. Oh, I was going to see there. So the whole world got end. No big deal. Massa Wayne. Some Clive. Wait.
Okay.
It's worth it. Some Clive Owens just want to watch the world burn. There's the payoff.
Oh, that's Billy laugh.
So anyway, So they're all having, and like we dear listener, we said this movie betrays you, and for a brief moment,
man.
Just like in that car scene, but even worse, for a brief moment, you forget what fucking movie you're watching.
You do a little bit.
You do, and you don't. It's just a sidebar. I always say From Dusk Till Dawn, the movie, is the best vampire movie ever made because you know it's a vampire movie when you hit play. But you definitely don't want it to become a vampire movie by the time you get to that point. You're having too good a time watching the actual movie unfold. And this, you know what's happening. You know what movie you're watching. But you don't, if you realize, the whole movie just ends with them sitting around smoking weed and jagging around Michael Caine's house.
That's a pretty good movie, actually.
All right, pretty great. This is a weird trip. All right, everyone ends happy. No one needs to know. The baby grows up on this hippie farm all the way. Everyone's great and everyone's having a good time. And then, just when everyone's having a great time coughing strawberries.
Yeah, everybody's having... the night passes. They wake up in the middle of the morning, early morning, I would assume, to this, alarm going off because living off the grid and knowing that there's shady people in the world, Jasper has a security system set up.
He does.
So Luke and company have trailed them. They have found where they are. And let me tell you something. I'm a grown-ass man.
Yeah, you are. Can't verify looking right at you, grown-ass man.
And there are some scenes that just, you don't get misty-eyed necessarily, but you feel that shit.
Yeah.
So, okay. Michael Caine, so we missed a plot point. Before the night before, Michael Caine says, hey, I have an idea. I maybe have a way that we can get Key where she needs to go.
He's a guy I sell weed to.
Yeah, he's a prison bus driver.
Sid.
Sid don't care.
Yeah.
Sid don't care at all. So that's literally how he talks.
He talks in the third person. But we'll get there when we... Right
so,
Sid.
Sid agrees to get them into a prison camp in Bexhill? Something or other?
Wait. Just to go back one extra little step. So we talked about this. One of the weird wrapping around themes of this movie, strangely, is immigration.
Yeah.
And you find out that their point of contact for the human project is outside of this town called Bexhill, which has been converted into an immigration prison camp.
Yeah.
So this entire idea of not wanting to give a baby over because it's an immigrant baby and the government hates immigrants, they have to break in to an immigrant prison camp in order to deliver this baby and then break back out of it again.
This is the closest they can get to a boat.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, and Sid's a guard there, and Michael Caine sells him weed.
Yeah. So
Michael Caine makes the connection.
Let's jump. Yeah. So he makes a connection, goes, talks to Sid. Sid says, hey, that's a good idea. So Sid allows this to happen. So the plan is, as Michael Caine, as Jasper explains to everybody, here, give him this, tell him he's a fascist pig. Call him a fascist pig. And originally, Jasper, I guess, was supposed to come with them, but the shit ain't happening.
No.
Not enough time. So he says, hey, I'll buy you some time. And Theo's like, "What are you talking about?" You know, that sort of thing. He goes, "I've talked my way out of worse situations." You know,
because
that sort of
it is heavily implied that Michael Caine is the photographer to his comatose wife's reporter, and that he's also been in wartime situations. So, and that's why he is. So,
enter.
Wait, before you say the words and before you get it out of your mouth, and before we go, there is a moment when he tells him about Sid, and one of the things that betrays you subtly about this film is for the two previous interactions between Michael Caine and Clive Owen in this, the pacing is very deliberate. It's slow.
Yeah.
And casual. Friends.
Very casual.
Letting the air, because they don't have shit to do. The world's ending. What are they going to do? Yeah, what do they got to do? They got to talk about, it's going to be fall. It's going to be great, right? And they do all that, and it's super casual. And now, in this moment of urgency, and they say goodbye, all you want is like a one more sentence said between the two, and it's cut off.
It's abrupt. Poor Theo is just like fucking...
Just been pushed around this whole damn movie into
his best friend now.
Reactionary. Literally the only other person he's known before this movie starts has pushed him away to save his life, and he's going to buy him time. And all you wanted was one more thing, and it's like, just go. And take it from here.
Michael Caine puts on a song. Now, I don't know the name of this song, but I've heard it before. And I don't know who it's even by. I don't think it's by the Beatles, maybe?
I think it's the song by the Turtles. But
Beatles, Turtles, fuck. Anyhow. Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So, goodbye, Ruby Tuesday. And so sad because he's giving quietus to his wife.
Yeah.
That is what made me sad.
Yeah.
Because he walks over to her. The song is playing. And he so gently and lovingly gives his wife a suicide pill because he does not want her to endure any more than she has endured in her life.
Yeah.
You know how kind of to do that, the love you have to have for your partner to do that.
Well, yeah, because just to add into that, first of all, it's Rolling Stones, Ruby Tuesday.
So it wasn't a stone. It was a stone, not a beetle or a turtle.
Yes, but it's pre.
Can I tell you, I never even heard of the Turtles before until today.
Happy Together, you and me, and me.
Oh,
that song.
That's them.
That's the Turtles.
Well, fuck.
Yeah. We'll go on about a random musical history in a musical episode. But
interesting.
He knows. I mean, this is a guy who's been around war and reporting and political faction all his life. So he knows that there's two ways that this ends for him. He gives up his friends, or it ends the way he ends. That's why he's not in a position to defend himself. Now, the one respectful thing we could probably say, the only respectful thing we could say about the Fishes at this point in the film is that they have no concerns with brutalizing anybody. They have singular, goal-driven mind. But how could Michael Caine know that?
Right.
So that quietus that we saw earlier in the film, that he was just jagging you around, comes into play.
Oh man, sad as shit. And you know what? I didn't notice this until I watched, because that scene is so heavy, and every time I've watched it, I'm just reeling from
the realization
him
what's
doing
happening.
what he's doing, what's about to happen.
Oh,
hello. So they go in. Okay. They say, who's in there? No one's in there. Just a dead woman and a dog. And then I realized he gave the dog quietus too. And it made me fucking even sadder, actually. I was like, God, that poor dog. They're probably going to shoot the dog anyhow. But fuck, man.
He didn't want anybody else to suffer.
Like, all for this baby.
Oh, I mean, yeah, for hope.
For hope.
For hope, right? And what he does too, and this is the straight up G-est moment in this movie.
Pull my finger.
Yeah, right? The straightest G moment in this entire movie. I mean, like, an all-time most badass moments in a movie. Here's a film about dystopian depression and the end of humanity and the one last hope. And here is this badass old hippie Michael Caine walks up to surely his death. And the thing he says is not stick a middle finger up, but he looks right at his would-be murderers and says, pull my finger.
fucking shot the finger off.
They did. I made him suffer. But that's like in the most if that isn't the most harmless hippie way to make a stand and a defiant gesture while still no violence towards that way. It was just incredible. Like, of all the ways in these movies you see someone, they pull out the gun and like Death by a Cop and they're going down in the blaze of glory and attaches the grenade to himself. No. It's just pull my face. Just defiance.
And for the record, that scene was super fucking tense. Like everything. Because the shot's like really far away, and Theo's watching this happen. Yeah. That's the other thing. Theo's watching this happen from a distance, and you're feeling what he's feeling. Like,
I believe the soundtrack in that moment is literally one note that just holds for the entire 3 minutes.
And they just shoot him like 3 times. They shot him once, shot his finger off after saying, pull my finger, shot his finger off. He goes, in the most Michael Caine way, fuck you. And they shoot him again. Mm-hmm. And then they shoot him again. Because after they shot him the finger, he says, fuck you. They shoot him again after asking, like, where are they? Where are they? He goes, pull my finger one more time. He pull my finger. They shoot him dead. Yep. And they're just like, this shit cannot end.
No.
And Theo, again, doesn't have time to fucking grieve.
No.
They just get in the car. We gotta fucking go.
And as you're saying that, I'm realizing here about a point in the movie is really, in a way, Theo's had absolutely every moment from the loss of his child until the beginning of this movie to grieve everything. Because he ain't gonna get shit throughout the rest of this movie. He'll have no time for anything.
Zero time.
But you don't even get to see Theo take a shit in this movie.
Thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, that's riveting 5 minutes.
Yes.
So, I don't know about the fiber consistency in the dystopian diet is, but keep going.
So they get to a school. There's a little, not even levity, but this is the moment of calm where Miriam and Theo have a moment. They talk about, the day. Because Miriam was a former midwife, and she talked about the days when, the baby stopped coming, basically. Sid shows up. Sid. And so Theo says, you're a fascist pig. And Sid, pretends he's going to murder him, but he doesn't. And he's, all excited about getting his weed and getting them into the Bex Hill. Is it Bex Hill?
So it's very close to that, if it's not, yeah.
So anyhow, they get in. They're told to go find a woman named Murica. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
which is, think about that.
Murica. So on the way there, Key's water breaks. Mm-hmm. A big fucking problem here. We cannot be giving birth on a fucking prison bus.
All right, so they're breaking into a prison camp as her water breaks.
Mm-hmm. And so Miriam, God bless her, sacrifices herself to get them in. Because they were originally going to go for Key, because Key's groaning and moaning and rocking back and forth, and the prison guard's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So Miriam stands up, starts saying shanty shanty, all sorts of shit, and they end up busting her in the mouth and dragging her off the bus, and she's fucking dead, and you're never going to see her again. And so Theo gets Key off the bus, finds Murica. Is it Murica? I think it's Murica.
Yeah.
And Murica gets them into this house, this apartment. So the baby is born.
Yeah. So should we explain the circumstances that happen while this baby's being born?
Well, I mean, they're on the floor. There's like a lantern. It's a dirty floor.
The lighting, here's something else just from a pure filmmaking kind of appreciation standpoint. This movie is shot very bleak. There's with the exception of maybe the lighting a little bit in Michael Caine's house. The movie is shot very British, like an overtone, like overcast kind of tones. Yeah. Even the lightest part of the movie still looks kind of muffled by clouds. It's cloudy weather, as bright as it is. The movie is not very bright.
No, not at all.
And not very colorful, super drab the whole time. But in this scene, it is absolutely, and this is going to come into play in a few minutes after this, but it is absolutely the dimmest, darkest, grittiest of all the scenes up to this movie, the birth scene. It is as dark and shrouded and as bleak as any of the other scenes are shot.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I actually kind of forgot about the vagina shot.
Yep, right in there.
Like right when the baby comes out, there's well done.
Yes, having seen this exact thing in real life, I tell you, flat out,
yeah.
woof. Yeah,
I have
that's the
not.
thing. Yeah.
I saw it on the Miracle of Life.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not the same.
The internet is an amazing place.
I guess you could do that too.
Dear viewer, just Google crowning and go for it. But I tell you what, but it's excellently shot. Oh my god.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So the baby's born, and it's a powerful moment, man. Like, I know I will not do that scene justice, and neither will Mr. Brown here.
Nope.
Because the scene is just powerful. Watching life come into the world where there is no new life.
Where there has not been new life for 18 years.
Is a pretty cool moment. And fast forward to the next day, and it's a really we're skipping kind of the importance of the bonding between Theo and Key, because this is a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
He's helping her give birth. He's coaching her through.
Her doula, her midwife is gone.
Yeah.
Everyone else that she's trusted up until this point, with the exception of Clive Owen, is gone.
And dead.
And now she just is surrounded by other people and circumstances that she does not trust in a place she's never been before. And the only grounding thing is Theo.
Yeah.
And here we approach.
He coaches her through, and she gives birth. I mean, and it's funny. I remember Key at one point in the movie says, before the birth and everything, like, I don't even like I've never really seen like what do babies even look like. I don't even really know.
Mm-hmm.
That's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that character with this guy she just met like 3 days prior, maybe.
Tops.
He's giving birth. He's helping her give birth, and he's it's cool, like, watch him like pour like alcohol in his hands to sterilize his hands and try to. It's heavy,
but he's trembling. Yeah,
he's terrified.
He's absolutely terrified for so many different things. Up? He's also here's also thing too, and I noticed this like the third time I watched this with the trembling in his hands. He hasn't drank anything in 2 days, and he's an alcoholic. He's starting to have.
I swear he drinks at Jasper's.
He does not drink at Jasper's.
He doesn't.
He gets. Like
he starts to,
but he doesn't. He never fully drinks. So he hasn't drank since what's her name dies, Julianne Moore. So he's starting right here in this point in the last act of the movie. Spoiler alert before we get there. He's starting the early onset from the alcohol withdrawal.
So I know we've been at this for over an hour and a half, but the good news for the listeners out here. Shit's gonna move real fast here. There's not a lot of details to
Ladies
cover.
and gentlemen, we have rounded the Pacific Avenue, and we are gearing towards Park Place and Boardwalk.
Yes, and so next day, Sid shows up.
Sid knows.
Sid figures some shit. He pretends like he's gonna help, but he's not gonna help. And he puts him at gunpoint, like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, you're worth money. The best... one of my favorite moments in this fucking film is when he sees the baby, he goes, Jesus Christ. His reaction is so
He had no idea what he was really getting involved in.
There's a fucking baby here, But there's a revolution.
Yes, so... To set this last, and which is... With all due respect to this film, and we've been glowing about this movie for the last 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
This movie makes or breaks itself on the second half of Act 3. Like, that Act 3 is one of the most pivotal, powerful acts. But to set up this idea that they've broken into this refugee prison camp, this immigrant prison camp, to give birth to this baby. Before they get there, that separates them from the human project, presumably, if it's even real.
Mm-hmm.
And their goal is this town that is now a camp that she has to give birth smack dab in the middle of.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that the whole concept we've been telling you about immigration and refugee status in this entire movie starts to come to a head to where the refugees begin to stage an uprising in this camp.
Yeah.
And the government has to come in to suppress it. So it's an active
and they suppress all right.
And it's an active genocidal war zone suddenly the next day. In addition, the fishes, led by Luke, know exactly where they were supposed to meet the human project anyway. Julianne Moore certainly told them. So they know that they've also now broken in to this refugee camp where all-out war and mass murder is starting to take place.
So now, and to piggyback off what you said, So Sid's trying to get him out to get to wherever so he can get a reward. Who knows?
Yeah.
So obviously our heroes break free from his grips, and Sid gets his fucking face cracked open, which is really brutal.
It was very for as much struggle as in this movie. It was very
Abrupt.
quick. It was abrupt and not in a satisfying way. You did not feel. You know, Sid's a douche, but you did not feel good watching him get hit with that.
It was like crack.
Like that, and you're like, oh yeah, and the body goes stiff. It's really horrifying realism in the violence in this movie.
So they are able to get to some safety, which is the third and final moment of peace, when the little old lady's doting over the baby, which was super adorable, super cool, super cute, because this little lady, probably fucking 100 years old, hasn't seen a fucking baby in a long time, and she's doting over the baby, and I think Theo's soaking his feet because his feet have been put through the fucking ringer this entire movie.
Oh yeah, he's in pain.
There's a whole entire subplot for his fucking feet.
Yeah, which we
didn't talk about once.
We've gone too far.
Yeah, but I should have brought it up, but it's not important.
He's got big Hulk and Clive Owen feet that suffer this entire movie.
The whole movie,
like two shades of John McClane walking on glass. In this movie,
like his feet are having a bad fucking day.
You don't really notice it until you start to get to the second Jasper scene that this man is suffering in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So there's a guy who helps them get to the boat. They're on the way to the boat. Now this enters the other really fucking cool one shot.
Now this is, if I could hop in here,
379 seconds, by the way.
379 seconds of what has to be, quite frankly, maybe top 5 most powerful single shots ever done. Would you mind if I
please
if I could help set the stage?
Yeah.
And you can hit the
do what you gotta do. I got a little fun fact about it too that you'll dig.
I'm gonna love it. So this entire third act is that Theo and Key are so inching closer. And the closer they get to their goal, the further they seem to have to get away. Every time they turn a corner, war is happening, and they have to turn a different corner to the point where they have found themselves in the middle of this all-out military-fueled genocide, running from the fishes and all of these horrible things. And they find themselves in this building. While the refugees they have nowhere to run. We're talking about armored tanks and AP and infantry. So they're running and they find themselves swept up with the refugees that are rebelling, and they're getting moved into a building, and they find themselves next to refugees that are actively fighting back against the government, and they are getting picked off one by one, and it's in the most horrifying hopelessness that somehow in this movie that is filled with nothing but hopelessness, they are cornered. They are on the top level of a building. What?
So that 379 seconds, right? The shot where they come out of the building initially with Murica, the guy who finds the boat for them, Theo and Key and the baby. They roll up. They get close to like where they have to unlock the door. That's when the fishes show up. Luke and company show up, and obviously they're caught now. So that's where like the scene starts there. Okay, so all right, because the top level part that is like after that. But the reason I stopped you is really important because you'll dig this. So the shot is for everybody who's never seen this film or who finally just watched it. Please tell me you watched it.
Your grandfather did not die on the beach of Normandy.
What?
Just so you could not fucking watch this movie. God damn it, George.
So, all right. So the shot is fucking phenomenal. Again, 379 seconds of one shot, but it's not just like one shot, two people talking. It's a whole lot of shit.
It's a whole lot of movement. Oh my God. It's an active war scene.
So they're put on their knees. The guy who helped them initially is executed. They take Key and they run off, and they're gonna execute Theo and so on and so forth in Murica. But then someone starts shooting at them, so that gives them a little bit of wiggle room to get away. They're being shot at by the fishes while they're dodging gunfire from the insurgents and from, I guess, the military. This shot is going all over the place. Right? There's a point though. You'll remember this. Where Theo's running, trying to get to the buildings. He knows that's pretty much where it's happening, is in this building, right? He runs through the bus where all the immigrants, the prisoners were hiding.
Yes.
And there's a point in which there's like a little bit of splatter of blood that hits the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so cursory, research. That shot, okay, that whole entire scene, okay, was a big fucking deal, obviously, for this production.
Oh, for sure. It's expensive.
So they originally got clearance to use that location, but then there was like a bombing in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and they almost lost the clearance to do it because they're bombing, blowing things up, and people felt it might be in poor taste, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they had 3 days to do it, right? The first day they did it, the cameraman they so they had to reset everything, but that reset takes 5 hours. They lost sunlight. So they tried it the second day. Second day, something else goes wrong while filming. I can't remember what it was. I read it and I thought it was really cool, but it doesn't matter. They have 1 fucking day left to get that shot because there's so much going on in it.
Yeah, so many,
including like the building, like that mortar blast in the building. All that stuff is in that shot, that 379 seconds. So they're filming the shot. Everything's going perfectly. No one's falling. Everybody's hitting their marks. Everybody's hitting their cues. Everything's going well. And then a squib misfires and blood hits the camera. So the director, Karan, screams cut, but no one hears him because it's so loud. And he's furious because he's like, this is ruining the shot. You can't see anything. No, this isn't my vision.
It makes the scene, man.
Right? So, and had he had his way, he would have cut that shot. And they'd have lost it then at that point. I don't know what they would have done. So because no one heard him because it was so loud, they finished the whole goddamn thing. And then when he yells cut finally, everything's over. And he's, furious. He's like, this and this. And the cinematographer's like, you fucking dumb. This is it. That's the shot.
Mm-hmm.
This pulls you in.
I'm going to do
How
that
cool
thing.
is that?
It's first of all, that's incredible. And I'm going to do that thing that some podcasts say. If you watch nothing else this week,
if you watch nothing else,
look up this scene, 379 seconds from the third act of Children of Men, as Theo staggers and tries to recover Key while the fishes are attacking in the middle of an active war scene. And this all eventually gets to where Theo and Key and the baby are cornered at the top of this building that is being hammered and shelled by the government against these refugees that they have no business being aligned with, but they find themselves in. And you see soldiers starting to pour into the building, and there are mortars and grenades going off, and there is unbelievable shell shocked. And then in the moment of unbelievable chaos and noise and hopelessness and destruction,
you hear baby cry.
the baby cries.
Now, Luke is at this point having had a stand. This is now before the baby cry. He had a standoff with Theo and all that, and Luke has this moment where he's like, I forgot what they sound like. Like this moment of humanity almost. Like he couldn't.
It was an object to him until that very moment.
It was.
I'm just realizing I'm saying it wasn't the refugees that they were fighting alongside. The fishes had turned to now start fighting the government to almost fight their way back out of this situation. Yeah. That's who was getting pegged, and Theo and Key were caught.
Now Theo tries to kind of. There's like obviously gunfire. Theo is able to kind of sneak away with Key, and Luke shoots at him. And where he gets his ass blown up.
Yeah.
So
he takes a grenade right to the chest. So
you have Theo, Key, and the baby, who has no name yet. Although I think Froley was the name she wanted to name the kid. Terrible fucking name. Everybody in this building, all the people who are dying.
This is literal
prisoners.
The heaviest war that you can imagine. We're talking about Saving Private Ryan level of heaviness.
Yeah. And they just stop.
Everything stops. And this baby's crying. And it's almost And when you said earlier, this is one of the last moments piece. This is the last, pivotal moment of piece.
Yeah.
It is one of the most powerful scenes you've ever seen. I'm not going to do it justice, but
No,
Key
it's
is carrying this
impossible
baby being guarded by Theo, and it's almost as if in that moment Key is gliding down these steps, going past. And as you go back down, because they've raced their way up to the top floor of this building, as they're coming down the steps, you're seeing all the destruction that's happened since they've gone up.
people dying.
There's people all over the place, and there's rows of soldiers, guns out, that would have annihilated, and they're all just
military soldiers. They just stopped. And it was actually really cool. When at the bottom, when they run into the actual military soldiers, they go, and the one goes, hold your fire. Like, he's like, no, because you gotta stop.
And there's a baby, and
there's
everyone
a fucking baby
stops,
here, and they all just part,
and they all wait, and it's like this unbelievable moment of true, honest peace, where no matter what sides of this, there's the hope.
That is it, right there.
There's the hope, and I got goosebumps thinking about it right now
because it's powerful.
It's super powerful. But what is the most true criticism and send up of the human species is what happens as soon as Theo, Key, and the baby are out of that scene. They start going right back to war. It didn't matter, and it didn't matter, and they blow right back. And if that is an indictment of the human condition,
well, humans are gonna human.
They're always gonna human. It's always gonna be a human.
What we do, unfortunately. So, we get to the boat. Murica's there. Thank God Murica didn't die. And she unlocks the door, gets them down to the boat, a little rowboat that'll take them out, because they're supposed to meet this boat at a certain point of the day near a couple of buoys or something or other.
There's one buoy out and past them.
So they row out, and finally, they made it. But you start realizing, there's blood in the boat, and it's not Key's, and it's Theo. Luke got him. Right at the very end, before Luke got blown up, he shot at him and got Theo, I guess, in the side and the abdomen. And Theo's dying. Mm-hmm. And it was a really cool moment because Theo, the baby starts to cry. And Key don't know what the fuck to do. She's never been around babies her entire life. And he's like,
he's bleeding out.
He's dying.
He's on this boat. They have made it into the water, but we don't know if the human project is real or not. They're just drifting out to where they got to go, and he's bleeding out, and the baby starts to fuss.
And he tells her what to do. Like, you pick the baby up, you gotta pat her on the back. Not too hard, just gently, and she does it. And the baby calms down, and he's just so satisfied in that one little moment.
He gets the parent one.
He gets to fucking be a parent, which I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He because it was taken away from him, and one moment he didn't even know he needed it. He gets to do it,
and she tells him that she's gonna name her daughter's a girl, Dylan, which is his son's name, and he had like a little half smile as he kind of drifts off, and then he dies, and then there's moment of like, oh my God. She's on this fucking boat by herself.
And now Key's alone with a baby.
And thankfully, that's when you see off in the distance the Tomorrow, the boat that's coming to save them, or who knows what. Experiment on them, who knows. But we don't know. No one ever knows.
No, and we don't want to know.
Yeah, nothing, yeah, no. We don't want to know.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the plot summary of Children of Men. Now, you've been listening to us talk about this movie so far for almost 2 hours. You could have fucking watched it by now and made your father finally proud of you.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's take a few moments here to talk about some of the themes that I think are present about the movie. Obviously, trust is a huge theme in this film.
Yeah.
Everyone having their own agenda. Everyone believing that their version of a solution is right to the detriment of all other things. But one of the key moments that always stuck out to me is when Key reveals her body to Theo and that she's pregnant, the fact that it happens in a barn, in a manger, is absolutely not lost and not subtle at all. That the one last hope, here's a baby in a manger. We do not know the father of the baby.
Right.
And we do not know where we come from. So this idea, the symbol, there's overall themes of both familiar and lost hope. in there. So that was not lost me. Not to force Christian overtones on anything, but I mean, you put a baby in a manger, and there's only really one conclusion you
Right.
can draw.
Yeah.
I also think it's really interesting that Julianne Moore isn't herself an immigrant, being the only person with an American accent in the entire movie as the
Yeah,
leader of
she
people who
was.
are anti-immigrants. Which didn't it struck me because she still is, but she is a huge star at the time. So you're just like, oh, Julianne Moore's in this movie. She plays this ex-wife, but you don't really think about, it's just essential how she, as a grieving mother, that influenced her politics when she herself was probably discriminated against for A, having had a baby and losing it through illness, and B, being an American in an English in a British world, and then looking for a woman named Murica at the end of the movie.
The movie it was it's really a heavy experience. If you were, there's a way to watch a movie where like you just experience it and you kind of almost like it's on rails, because it's easy to do that with a movie, to watch a movie on rails.
Yeah.
But then if you are open to a movie, really just try to digest it, really experience these moments and these emotions, like it can really affect how you see things. Like, not saying like, oh, watch a movie's going to change the world. It's not about that, but
No.
it really is. If you look at all of it really was about this one human being giving birth to another.
Hope. And the representation of hope.
And how powerful and how strong hope can be for a person, for entire groups of people who hate each other, people who think they hate each other, people who don't like each other, people who think I gotta kill that guy. But if you put hope in the middle of that,
They stop.
they may just stop.
And I think that's important, because up until that point in the movie, the hope, until the baby's born, the hope is theoretical. It represents a chance of redemption, right? A chance that this baby, because I don't know about you, but you kind of expect, the first time you're watching the film, the baby to maybe be born, but maybe they're going to leave it ambiguous, right? And out there. And so everyone is killing each other and murdering and assassinating and betraying each other over this concept of potential hope. Potential hope. And then when the actual hope is presented and it moves and it speaks and it breathes in front of them, it stops.
Yeah.
Because I think that what it says is that you can try to control and section off all the solutions and branding that you want, but when humans are faced with an actual undeniable positive thing, the natural human inclination, which is to start fighting before then and immediately after, is to recognize it, right?
That's well said.
Watch the sunrise, and then go to work, right?
Yeah.
But to recognize that's the sunrise. I always have a hard time, because it's easy to lump movies where the main character dies, right? It's like sometime we'll do a survey about the top 5 movies that isn't this movie where the main character dies before the end, right? And it's easy to lump that into it's a tragedy. Right, and it is, and if something has to be a comedy or a tragedy, this is for sure a tragedy. But I love the fact that we get 40 seconds, maybe a minute, of Key in that boat at the end of that movie, because speaking from first of all, it's amazing that the only other time we see him happy is when he's parenting as he's dying, right? But speaking from a parent's perspective, she's sitting there in that boat. And then he's gone, and she's all alone. She has no idea what to do.
Yeah.
The day my daughter was born, and because I know some people give birth and they're in the hospital for days, and the baby's in the hospital for days. And we were lucky in that regard. My daughter was born before 3:00 on a Thursday, and at 3:30 on a Friday, we were discharged from the hospital.
Wow.
So less than a day later.
That's wild.
And so now they're like, okay, get out of here. And there was this moment of quiet when we got back to her, and we were just getting the baby, and I don't know how to do the car seat, and I'm putting this tiny little thing in this car seat and taking her through the hospital and talking to her the whole time. And I put her in the car, and we get home, and we're all, and then you bring the baby in the house, and then quiet, and you're like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm not alone in a boat, and I have no idea what the fuck to do now. And I've been reading books for 10 months, right, and preparing for this, and I still have no idea what to do. So in that moment where she's alone in that boat, before a solution comes, because you're like, oh, let's feed the baby. And then you eventually think, oh, there's got to be something.
There's got to be something she's got to do here.
It's a creature. It's got to do one of three things. It's going to sleep, eat, or shit, right? At a moment in time, any moment in time, or work towards those three things. Key's left alone. And it's like, to me, that's yet another tiny little overtone, is that there are themes throughout this whole thing. In a movie where that's based on the idea that we can have no more babies, you see familiar themes of parenting, right? Regret, right? Could I have done better? We feel that way about our kids. Our parents feel that way about us. We feel that way about our parents. Almost like a hopelessness. You see reckless abandon.
Yeah.
Coming down maybe too hard. When perhaps a softer touch might have been necessary. Gun barrel diplomacy, which, when you put it in a parenting perspective, isn't just, do this because I'm your father, right? In that regards, but there's when you present a creature with an ultimatum, they're forced to take it or deal with the consequences.
Correct.
Right, and I think that is absolutely not only true in parenting, but in this film, absolutely. What's going to happen when we if Julianne Moore won't focus and do what we say, they kill her. Gun barrel diplomacy. And it's the same way. I think there's themes for parenting all the way through. Jasper then represents the other side, where you have strict parents, people who do what's best, and I will do what's best for our baby and our country, regardless if they like it or not, which is what the fishes kind of do. Jasper's like, there's a humility and being almost sacrificed to it, right? And there's just the way you had mentioned with how he loves his wife and the dog to do that. I think you see that in how that's a parenting style.
That is
there. So I think you see whole themes throughout it, and then just to have Theo at the end give that last little thing,
he's able to give something to her.
He's so weak, and he's drifting. He's going at that point.
I mean, the movie's got. I mean, it's about trauma, and I mean, what movie isn't? But it is about trauma. It's about
Austin Powers is not about trauma. Damn it.
I mean, maybe you're
right. It's basically like sexual assault. In a movie,
but I mean, there's a lot of emotional trauma in this movie. There's a lot of unresolved trauma. There's a lot of physical trauma. I realized something as we were talking about this movie. This has nothing to do with trauma, but there's a little point that I want to bring up. This movie had quite a few action sequences.
Yeah.
A lot of violence. And at no point, not once, not a single time did our protagonist, Theo Ferran, ever pick up a gun and fire it.
Nope. The most he did aggressively to somebody,
smashed its head in.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, it was the pipe, which was pure defensively and reactionary with the door. And I think reactionary sums up Theo the whole time.
Yeah, the movie is just it's a really unique experience. I cannot even begin. And that's, you said, I don't know a while ago, about how everything's politicized in the movie and how that's what people do, and just going and looking through the lens of Theo in this world, he's so disillusioned. He sees it. Mm-hmm. He's not buying the bullshit. He's quite literally the only person in the beginning in that coffee shop not mourning Diego's death.
Yeah.
He's like, can I have 2 sugars, please? He's like, I need to go. I got to go to work.
We have things to do, yes.
He goes to work, and everybody in his office, in the different cubicles, are mourning Diego's death. He goes to his boss's office to request a leave, and his boss is mourning Diego's death. It is a world mourning experience.
It is.
And he is so over this bullshit.
He's so jaded.
So over all of it. Mm-hmm. Because of his own past traumas. Because of his unresolved issues with his ex-wife. Because of missing his fucking son. And anybody who's experienced loss of a loved one, that is really close to you, you grieve them every day of your life. You will just do so. That is the process, I think, of grieving. Is just... It's daily. You just get better at living with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's some of the best advice I've ever given in my life is, there's not a day that's going to go by that you're not going to miss that person. You just get better at missing them. You get better at handling it. But you will think of them every single day. And to lose a child, I can only imagine. It's hard enough to lose a parent or a sibling, or even a spouse, but to lose a kid, that's something else entirely.
Yeah.
But so the character is dealing with all that trauma, and for him to go from point A, drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning, putting coffee in his booze, to guiding
Amen to that.
guiding this girl on how to calm and burp her child, how to calm the child down, but in his last moments on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
This is fucking awesome to me.
Oh, it's so good. And from my last thought about, and we could spend another 2.5 hours dissecting this movie, but I actually do like from a character standpoint, that Luke is the one that gets him.
Yeah.
And I like it because it shows one more time the consequences of a narrow single focus. That Luke, though he became for a moment aware that it was a life and it was not an object anymore, that the instinct was still so beyond that. You tell that character could do it 10 times and 9 times out of 10 would make a different decision, right? But I like how Theo goes down and you have to pinpoint how did that happen. There was debris flying everywhere. And it's like it was Luke that got him, right?
Yeah,
and
it was definitely Luke.
So almost in that way, all the ends tie up.
Yeah,
and it's almost represents a fresh start for Key at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
and I think that's really clever.
I am not. I know I'm not alone in this when I say that I hope that everybody who listens to this, even if you've never seen this movie before and you've listened to this entire thing, I am promising you, watching it, everything we've talked about won't ruin the experience.
Oh no, we basically what this has just been is a 2-hour love letter to a movie that we find profound in every possible sense of the word.
I actively remember, because I caught the trolley home. I'm pretty sure I caught the trolley home that day from the theater, and I remember sitting on the trolley thinking about what I just watched, and I just like how profound, like how much I couldn't shake it, and the next day I was thinking about it.
Yeah,
like I thought about that movie for pushing about a week. It just moved the fuck out of me.
Yeah, so I to elaborate on to that. You were the one who recommended to see this film to me, and we'd seen the previews and we talked about it. We had, I believe, if I'm correct, we were living together.
Yeah, it was 2006. So we were living.
Yeah, we were living together.
Yeah.
And you're like, Mr. Brown, you have to see this movie. You have to see this movie. And I wanted to see it. And so we made a special time to go see it, and an arrangement. And I remember us walking out of that movie theater, and it was at this little theater. I remember where it was in Washington, Pennsylvania. And there was that little courtyard outside of the box office where there were benches there. And I was like just emotionally and mentally fatigued from this film, and I sat down on this stone bench and just kept thinking about the movie, and you sat next to me silently, and we didn't say a word until the people that we had gone there with, who obviously the movie did not hit them the way that it hit us, broke our concentration and we had to leave. But we sat there in silence, and so I was too young to see Schindler's List in the theater, right? And I've seen some powerful movies since then, but I don't think I've ever walked out of a theater and sat in silence outside of the theater. And I don't know how long we would have sat there had we not been forced to get up, you know? So it's one of those pivotal moments. Yeah. And not just story structure, but humanity. But listen, I'm not going to guilt you. Your mother and I are very disappointed if you haven't seen this movie. And nothing you will do will ever earn my love or her love or the love of your ancestors. No. All the way back to the beginning, to the time before time. But if you've made it this far into our love letter to what we consider one of the most important, profound, and greatest films of all time, then why don't you take the journey into the next episode with us? Because, should I tell them, Doc?
Yeah.
Our next journey into the podcast for next week. We've talked about film. We've talked about the things that have brought us together. But one of the things, the key thing that brought us together as friends is professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And a quick story, and we'll tell all about this when we get into next week's episode. But when we were but teenagers, Herb decided that he was going to be my friend because we had a similar favorite wrestler. And because of that favorite wrestler, we thought it was very important that next week we're going to cover one of the, if not the absolutely most controversial pro wrestling subject ever, the Montreal Screwjob. It is a ballad of trust, loss, and a business and perspective forever changed.
I don't know what to expect out of this next episode, to be totally honest with you. It's sort of like... Because look, everything that we're going to talk about has been talked about. Mm-hmm. Listen, folks, we're not going to bring any sort of
There's going to be no breaking news here.
Information. I hate to tell you, but we won't.
Yes, yeah. There will be no insider scoops here.
No,
but
it's just a matter of opinion.
Coming up on the 24-year anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob.
It's a long time.
It's been a long time. So we've had almost that entire time to argue between ourselves and our opinions. My opinion has molded and it is fluid over the years. And I know you have an opinion about this.
My opinion really hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all.
No. So our next episode, coming up, episode 3 is going to be the Montreal Screwjob. But wait, because we're going to keep things rolling in a different thing. Because episode 4, 2 weeks from now, expect it here for Nothing Good. We're going to review From the Heart of Darkness of Children of Men in the Montreal Screwjob to perhaps the most loving concept of video gaming ever. We're going to talk about the Nintendo 64. Mm-hmm. Our favorite games, our favorite moments, our least favorites, too.
There's a couple of those.
Yeah, pretty fantastic. We'll probably talk about Blockbuster Video several times throughout all this. We'll see how this goes. And then we're going to round up into episode 5 with the music category and who we're going to talk about in episode 5.
I want to say we were going to talk about hybrid theory. Am I correct?
No, we are not.
No. What are we going to talk about? What are we talking about?
Eminem.
Oh, that's right.
Eminem. That's right.
You're right. I'm sorry.
You know what? We're gonna erase this right now, and I'm gonna say, throw it to you. Episode 5. What are we gonna talk about?
Slim Shady.
That's right. Eminem will be episode 5. How do we feel about it? How do you feel about it? What are some of the most important moments? Some of the greatest songs? What are some misconceptions? What about, we come from a time where growing up, as the peak of Eminem starts, as we're hitting very influential youth time. So, Eminem,
Agreed.
Episode 5.
It's going to be real fun.
Oh, it's going to be good. Nintendo 64, Episode 4. But join us next week as we dive into professional wrestling with a topic. The WWF. It's Montreal, Quebec, Canada. It's November 1997.
The year of our Lord.
The year of our Lord. In the year of our Lord. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Vince McMahon, and an industry forever changed.
Forever changed.
The Montreal Screwjob.
Yes.
Do you want to take one more poke at a crappy British accent before we go?
Well, hello there. My name is... Franz Fresh.
I feel like I choked on my own mustache. On that note,
thank you guys for joining us for Nothing Good, and we're hoping that you had some good fun with us, laughed a little bit, and learned a little bit about how our minds work.
It's a fucking walrus you just did.
I know, a British walrus. Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Yep.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week in the Montreal Screwjob.
Yes. Till the next time.
Peace.
Later.